Hey everybody, it's Anna. Welcome back to my Fluid Art channel and thank you so much for being here. So back in the summer, my husband Josh and I got to travel to Europe. We visited my sister Sylvie and her husband and her newborn son. They live in this cute little village in the French Alps, and they're just surrounded by these absolutely stunning mountains. Everywhere you look, these tall, huge, beautiful, panoramic views. Really cool. And I want to make a painting of that. So I've got a 16 by 20 inch canvas, and I've already painted the first layer. Because for this mountain range, because I want it to look actually like those mountains, not just generic mountains, I'm doing this in 2 layers. So I have already poured the background, which is going to be the sky portion. Let me show you how I did that. I have a 16 by 20 inch canvas, and I've already painted the edges blue to make sure that I get good coverage over the sides. For my colors, I have this beautiful sky blue, which is a custom blend that includes a fair amount of white. I also have some titanium white, some metallic ocean green, and then this one is a custom mixed mica pigment paint called Seashell. And then I have a few other smaller leftover cups of assorted colors just to add a little bit more interest to the sky. I don't have all of the information about which colors or brands they are, but I will put all of the information that I do know down in the video description. My paint is all mixed with Floetrol, and the consistency is pretty thin, between a medium thin and a thin, because I really want it all to blend well together and look dreamy, instead of keeping really bold colors with a lot of contrast. For my sky, I'm doing 2 flip cups, so I have a couple big cups here, and I'm going to fill them mostly with this sky blue. Then I will add small layers of the other colors, in order to get small pockets of color throughout the cup. As you pour your paints into a cup, the higher that you pour them from, the more the paint will drop into the rest of your colors and blend. And if you pour from down low, your colors will sort of stack on top of each other. I want a lot of blending, so I am pouring from pretty high up. If you're trying to create a sky or a background, where, the top of the painting is slightly different than the bottom, you can layer your cups with some different paints in each cup. But I want the whole sky to be the same blend of colors, so I'm layering both of my cups exactly the same. Okay, so now that my cups are filled, it's time to put them out onto the canvas. So I'm going to very quickly flip them over. Nice. It's okay if a little bit of paint spills. Whoops, that one had a little bit more spilling, but it's still fine. And now I'm going to quickly lift them up while pulling to the side. Ooh, that's a beautiful swoop. I love that. Now let's pull up the second cup. Oh, that one was interesting. So I'm using the leftover drippings from the cup to just help cover the edges of the canvas and let all the paint spread more easily. Now I'm losing a little bit of paint off the top of the canvas right now, so I'm just going to tilt that puddle backwards and stretch it out a little bit so that it's not all pouring over the one side. Okay, now I'm going to quickly torch it just to pop some air bubbles and see if I can make any cells. So now I need to start tilting this paint out, but I'm a little concerned that I don't have quite enough paint, so I'm going to put tape on the corners to be corner catchers. This will help me get those edges covered without losing a lot of paint over the sides. And now let's go ahead and tilt. So I'm just gently moving the paint. I'm going to pour it until it reaches all the way into that corner, and then pull it out. Now I'll take the paint up to that top corner. Looks like I missed a little bit right in the corner, but that'll be okay. Heading to the top corner now. So with only corner catchers, you might still lose a little bit of paint over the sides, but not as much as you would have before. Okay, so now that I've pulled the weight of the paint back from the corner, I'm going to take off both of these tape corners from this side, because while I still have a lot of paint on this side, I want to make sure that I cover the sides of my canvas. So I'm very gently just going to push that paint layer a little bit further off of those edges. But I'm not losing a lot of paint because the paint was already there. Covering up the little spaces, making sure everything's covered before I move over to the next side. Okay, let's tilt the canvas over to the left side now. So I'm going to do it exactly the same way. Just very gently get the paint flowing and move it towards this bottom corner first. The slower you move, the easier it is to look at the entire painting and see what's happening all across it. Almost there. We'll make it all the way to the corner and then pull back out. But this time I'm actually going to take the tape off now that I've covered that corner. Which might seem a little bit pointless, but it actually does help you save paint and get your canvas covered in a more controlled way, so I really like it. Alright, heading up to the last corner. We've got some really beautiful cells up there in the top left, so I don't want to lose too many of those. Got it. So I pull the weight of the paint back so it doesn't all dump off the edge, then remove the tape, and now I can just gently nudge that design off of the edges to get the sides covered and even out the design exactly the way I want it. Great, it looks like everything's covered, so I'm just going to tilt it until I have a nice, beautiful looking sky. Uh-oh, I see a lump in the paint. Do you see it? So I'll just quickly scoop that out. Wow, that's a pretty big lump of paint in there. Just try to even out my color a little bit. This design is so gorgeous. It really looks like a beautiful sky with the wind blowing and some nice clouds. I'm going to torch it one more time just to get all of those remaining air bubbles popped. I'll finish covering up my corners, but I'd say this design is done. Let me show you a close-up. Okay, let's take a look at some of those details. Let's start up here in the top where there's those beautiful cells. I think that's the seashell making those cells. It's just very dreamy, where you can see that there's many colors inside the sky, but not a lot of contrast. Beautiful band of color running through here. I do quite like that metallic teal. And then a bigger white pocket down here at the bottom, which I think will get covered up. It is very pretty, but it looks a little bit less like the sky. Okay, I'm going to let this dry and let the paint cure, and then I will come back and do the next step. And now it's time to actually paint the mountains. So I have a whole bunch of green colors, and as you will see, I've made a tape stencil. So I make my tape stencils mostly for my micro swipes, but I made a whole video that shows how you make the tape stencil because you can use it for any type of pour. So look for the link down in the video description. So I've got the mountain range here, and then I widened it a bit, and then I made this wall so that I could tilt the paint and not have to cover the entire canvas with tape, but the paint would kind of stay on this side of the wall. And actually, I almost had a disaster earlier because I wasn't paying attention when I put the tape stencil on, and I actually put it on facing the wrong direction. So this was going to be the sky instead of this being the sky, and I only realized it like hours later and then went, oh my goodness, I put this on the wrong way, so I had to peel it back up and put it on the right way. So fortunately I caught that in time. But we got the stencil on. I'm using frog tape, which is nice and like it makes a really good barrier. But also I used a hair dryer to warm it up and then really press down the edge just to make sure we get a good seal and we're not going to have any paint leaking through. So just like with the background, all of my paints are mixed with Floetrol, American Floetrol, and then thinned with water. And they are all sort of a medium thin consistency. So it flows well and it makes a little mound, but it's a very soft mound that disappears quickly because I don't want lots and lots of like bold colors in this. I want it to blend and look more natural and dreamy. A lot like this background did. We have certain colors that stand out, but for the most part, it's just a nice blend. So these three are going to be my mountain colors because we have kind of two big mountains here, and then there's going to be this sort of green, grassy, flatter hill down at the bottom. So these are the upper mountain colors, and then this is more the grass colors. And I'm going to do this as two flip cups. So I'll have sort of the mountain colors up top and the grass colors down below, and we'll pull them sideways and then tilt it out. So let's go ahead and stack these cups. I'm going to start with the mountain cup, and I want this one to be largely this nice dark green. And then I have this sort of like grayish green, which was a leftover color from, I forget which painting. And then I have Pearlized dark green. So that's going to be my metallic for the mountains. And I'm not sure if I just saw a lump go in there, so I'm going to have to be on the alert for lumps in the paint. And I'm mixing sort of from up high because, like I said, I want the paint to begin to blend even in the cup. That looked like a lump also. It's not so good. Maybe it's not. And I want to put in a little bit of this lighter green. So this is actually this green color mixed with my leftover gray green to make a slightly brighter muted green. Because I do want some brightness up here, but I also didn't want the grass to be really, really bright. So I'm going to put a little tiny bit of the bright green in the mountain, but not a lot of it. And my cups, they hold about 10 ounces of paint. I'm not going to fill the mountain one up all the way because I don't think we need a full 20 ounces of paint. So there's my mountain cup. It looks very lovely. I think that's going to be a nice color blend, dark and more of the subtle kind of muted colors. And now for the grassy band down at the bottom, I want it to be mostly this brighter kind of sage color, but then also this one, I don't remember if this is spring green or sap green, and then I mixed this green also with some lemon yellow to make this nice yellowy green, because the grass in my pictures did look kind of yellow. And then I have this metallic green from Artist's Loft, which is cool. It looks like a very bluish green, but when it dries, it almost has a gold sheen to it. So I think it's going to end up being nice for our grass. Just trying to add small layers so we don't have any really big pockets of color anywhere. I want it to blend nicely. I'm also going to put a bit of this gray-green because I have some extra, and having a bit of a a more earthy color in the grass isn't a bad thing. And I want to keep just a little bit of this for touch-ups. So I don't want to use all of that. All right, we'll call that good enough also. So I have two nice cups of paint, and I'm going to do this as flip cups just the way that I did the background. Before I flip the cups though, I'm going to put some tape along this edge of the canvas because I'm going to flip the cups from here, and I want to make sure that we don't lose too much of our paint as we get this side covered before we bring it this way. So I'm just going to take some blue tape and put it like that, and it makes a nice little corner catcher and then edge catcher. I'm not going to press it too hard here against my little tape wall though, because I don't want to mess with that. And then just press it down so that it sticks well and doesn't leak. Okay, let's go ahead and put the cups onto the canvas. Whoa, that spilled. A little faster for this one. Much better. So we're going to have kind of two layers, the mountains, the grass. I'm going to pull them this way in a nice fast swoop to try to get sort of lines of color instead of a round puddle. Let's go ahead and flip the mountains first. Okay, we got a little bit of paint here in the cup, which I might be able to use later. That's cool. I like it because there are different colors in it, but it's not really bold. All right, let's do this one now. And I'll just go ahead and begin to get my edges covered with this. Cool, oh, I love that too. Dreamy, a little bit of the yellowish. Love it. All right, let me torch really quick. Okay, I'm gonna start by stretching it this way to fill out my edge, and then I'll bring it all this way. And it doesn't have to go all the way up to the tape wall, it just has to cover the stencil line. Okay, so we've got that corner now. Alright, so we've got a really interesting swoop here, unfortunately. Well, before we stretch it out more, I'm going to get some of this paint moving this direction to straighten out that line a bit so we don't lose a lot. Okay. I wish I could just push this upwards, but it'll be all right. It'll just be sort of a curving hill instead of a flat hill. All right, I'm gonna remove this so that the paint can start to flow over the sides. And then I'll just help it along by nudging it this way. Actually, I'm not going to, because the weight of the paint is all here. So I'm going to bring that this way, and then I'll try to even this out once there's not so much paint here. So I want to bring that horizon line all the way to the edge of the canvas. Great. And then bring the grass down a little bit. Excellent. Okay. So I've got it pretty flat here. Now I'm going to come back this way and try to get this swoop evened up. Yep, I got this edge covered. So we'll just finish out by getting the corner, covering this edge before I move too far past. That way it can continue to drip and even itself out. All right, let's bring it back this way. And as I'm moving it, I am trying to look for evidence of lumps in the paint. I'm not seeing any yet. Unfortunately, this whole swoop here might have to go. Whoa. All right, it's a little interesting. Never mind, the swoop's not going. just reshaping a bit. That's kind of cool. So we should have some shimmery stuff up in the tops of the mountains, which is neat. I don't love these blobs. Those are just, they're large cells and they stand out in a weird way. I do need to cover this side here. I'll pour my leftovers from the cup here so I can just dab it on. Let me torch again. I like this. It's hard to know how it's going to look, obviously, until the stencil comes up, but I think I'm good for now. I don't think I need to even out any lines or touch up anything, and I don't see any lumps in the paint that I have to pull out, so let me give you a close-up. Okay, so this doesn't look like much right now, obviously because of the tape and the tape wall, but we have a really pretty swoop here. Because my paint was nice and thin and I was pouring it into the cup from a height, it all blended nicely. We don't have a ton of cell reaction, just some gently layered colors. I do like that pop of yellow. And then on the mountain side, we actually have a little bit more difference because we have some cells here. I think they're largely from the metallic green, which is a lighter density. So I really like what the metallic has done up here at the top. I think that'll look really cool on the tops of the mountains. Not wild about these squished cells in the middle, but I can't really get away from those since they're right in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry and then I will peel up the tape and show you how it looks. Alright, the paint is all dry, so now it's time to pull up this tape and see what it looks like in its full 2-layer form. So as you're pulling up tape, you want to make sure that, that the line where the tape ends, as you pull it up, you want to almost fold the tape back so it's easy for the paint layer to break. Do you see like this? If you pull it straight up, the paint layer might stretch and lift off of your canvas. So as I'm pulling here, I'm folding it back on itself, which helps to make a really clean transition. Here, the tape was starting to tear. I'm going to start on this side now and come back so that I don't mess up that transition. Well, I did the same thing. The tape ripped instead of the paint layer. So just to make sure that it lifts easily, I'm going to help. I'm going to use a little craft knife to help guide the edge. There you go. So here I have my little craft knife so that if the paint layer is having trouble tearing, I can sort of help it tear in order to keep the tape layer intact. Hey! That's cool! So we definitely have the mountain edge. The tape pulled up pretty cleanly. You got the nice grassy front. Let me show you how this looks. So here it is all done. That is so cool. So the close-ups, first of all, let's take a look here at the sky. I love that metallic up there in the sky. Really cool details. Some neat little bubbly cells. And then this mountain ridge is very cool. Obviously it does look like a stencil, but the stencil also matches the actual outline of the mountains. I suppose if you wanted to soften it, if I wanted to soften it, I could add a little bit of just brush painted on the top to make it look kind of like trees or something, but I don't feel like I need to do that. So we do have a neat color blend. I really like the metallic band up here near the top of this mountain. In the sky, I have a little bit of a strange residue. I don't know if you can see it from here, where the tape was. Yeah, I don't think it's really a texture. I have a feeling that once I varnish it, you won't be able to see that. I don't usually get that when I put tape on my paintings, so I'm not sure what that's all about, but this green swoop is very cool, the grass. A little bit of an odd texture there. I think that's just because of pouring paint on top of other paint, but I don't mind it. And then we've got the nice metallic band there at the top, and the yellowish. So that is a really pretty layer also. Now what I'm figuring out is, do I leave the painting like this? I'm really happy with how much it looks like the reference photo, but I'm trying to figure out whether I brush paint some details like wildflowers or houses or animals or even some words down in that grassy area just to kind of customize it a bit. But I don't know, so I need you guys to tell me, what do you think? Do I need to add anything more to this, or leave it as a beautiful abstract mountain scene? Thank you so much for joining me as I painted this Alpine scene. It was a lot of fun, and I hope it inspired you to try something new. Don't forget to check out the rest of my channel where I have hundreds of other acrylic pouring tutorials. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye guys!